Hello, hope all is well. By the end of this video, you'll be able to create this simple model using the React useState hook and TailwindCSS. So let's do this. So first, we'll create our React app. That's with npx create React app. So open up your folder in the terminal and type the npx create React app. Then your app name. This may take a while. So after we have created our React app successfully, we'll install our necessary dependencies. So for this model, I'll be using TailwindCSS. Don't worry if you have never used TailwindCSS before. It has never been easier to add Tailwind to React. We shall just follow the documentation. So visit tailwindcss.com and click the Get Started button. So from the Get Started section, move to the Framework Guide and then look for the Create React app. That's at the bottom. So to install TailwindCSS with Create React app, we'll follow these commands over here. So first, we need to create our React app. That's with npx create React app that we have done. Then next, we would need to move into our project. So I'll list and see where I am. Then I would cd into my React Modal. That's my project name. You should be able to see those different files. Then next, I would copy this command, that's to install Tailwind, post CSS, and auto prefixer. Paste it, then run it. After that, I would copy the next command. So literally, this is just copy and paste. After that, so I would look for my tailwind.config.js file and add the following to it. So it has highlighted the content. First, I would open up my project in VS Code. So by now you should have the different files here. That's from the node modules, and then look for the tailwind.config.js file. In the tailwind.config.js file, I would copy the content apart from Tailwind here. So copy that and paste it. And lastly, we should add the Tailwind derivatives to our CSS. So I would copy this here and paste it in my index.css file. So in the source, there's that file called the index.css. First, we won't need this code, so I'll delete everything that's inside and paste what I've just copied. And after that, I'll run the npm run start. So I'll copy that. Let's open up a new terminal in VS Code and then paste npm run start. So we run that command and that has opened up our React app. So first, to test if our Tailwind has been installed correctly, we would move to a file called the app.js. That's in the source, then app.js. And then we won't need all this, so I'll test out with the h1. So copy the h1 from Tailwind and paste it, and we should have a text that is large saying hello world. And that's it. Tailwind has been configured. So to try out with colors, maybe make this red and then 500 the intensity. So okay, we are able to use Tailwind classes in our project. And that's it. That's all for installing Tailwind CSS. Next, we'll install the React icons dependency. This would help us in using that icon you see in the model. So that's with npx install React icons. That will take a minute or two. And don't worry, you don't need to cram any of these icons. So to be able to check which icon you can use, you can visit reacticons.github.io/react icons and search any that you are looking for. In case you're looking for warnings or the delete, all these icons are there. It's a collection of different icons, from material designs to font awesome icons. Don't worry, we are done with the installations, so let's work on our project. So I'll close this up and close this up. So when you look at the React structure, we have the node modules, the public folder, and the src folder. Then the different folders that we have been working with. That's with the tailwind.config.js file. This is the file to configure our Tailwind. and then the postcss.config.js file, but we won't be working with those. We also have the package.json where we have our dependencies, in this case the React icons that we just installed, and then the different scripts. So today we shall be working with one folder in particular. That's in the src folder. We shall look for the app.js file that we have already interacted with. For now, we are only rendering out hello world to the browser. So if we start our project, that's with npm start, you don't need to write npm run start. We have this word hello world here. So that's not what we want. We want to create our model. So to create our model, we shall delete this and start afresh. So next, I'll delete these imports here. We don't need them. And then I'll import the useState hook. That's from React. So import useState. And that's from React. Next, I would import the different icons that I'll need. So in my case, I'll need to import the IO warning, and that's from React icons, the package that we just installed. So React icons, and then specify under which font type. That's from the IO icons. So IO 5. Next, I would import, that's the MD delete, and that's from the React icons, then MD. This because it belongs to the material design. Next, we shall use our useState hook to create a popup. So we shall create a popup, then set popup, say this is equal to the useState hook, and at first it will be false. So this will determine if we should show our model or not. Then after that, I'd move into my return and then create a div. Then I would give this a class name. So since we installed TailwindCSS, writing CSS will be easy. All you need to do is assign them the different Tailwind classes, and these styles will be specified. So to use Tailwind, you don't have to know everything about Tailwind. You can just follow the documentation padding, and that's with P, padding of 20. After that, I would create another div and give it a class name of flex to give it a flex display. Then give it a gap of 8. Then align items to the center, that's with items center. And then give it a margin bottom of 10. So MB for margin bottom of 10. Then inside this div, I would create another div, and this div is for my initials CK. Would come here and say class is equal to BG, that's gray 700. So you can see how to customize the Tailwind CSS colors. So this would give it a background color of gray here. So I'd want the text to be white. Let's give it a width and a height. Then make it rounded. That's with rounded full. That's rounded full. So this will give me this. Then to center the items in the center, I'd give it a display of flex. And then align items to center, justify content to center. So if we check, we have it in the middle. Next, I would indicate my name. Here I'm trying to indicate the user. So my name and profession. So we'll create another div. And inside this div, we would have an h1 of my name. In this case, let's say Charles Kasasira. And then after that, I would have a paragraph of my occupation as a web developer. So that's it. And then to give this the different styles, I'll give it a class of flex. Then give it a flex direction of column. That's with flex column. And then justify content to the center. So that's what we have here. Then for my heading, I'd like it to be bold. That's with font, bold. Then I would like it to be a little bit large, text 3XL, extra large. I'm happy with that. Then for the paragraph, I'll change its color maybe to gray. That's with the class name of text gray. Maybe give it an intensity of 700. So that's it. Next, I'll create our button, which on clicking would open our model. So I'll come here and create my button, and this button will be the open model button. The open model button here. So to style it, I'll give it a class name and define the different classes that I would like to be applied on it. So in this case, I would like to give it an outline and make the outline thin. That's with outline 1. Give it a padding horizontally, that's of 3, and padding vertically, that's of 2. Great, so far everything looks good. So when I hover this button, I want to give it a background color of black and make the text color white. So I'll come back to our class name and define the hover state. So on hover, I'd want the background color to change, that's to black. And then still on hover, I'd like the text color to change, that's to white. So if we check our button and move over it, the background color changes to black and then the text color changes to white. That's great. All this is not part of creating the model. This was setting the stage for our model. So to open this model, a user would have to click this button and the model opens up. So how do we do that? First, we'd give our button an onClick event. That's with onClick. Then what do I want to happen? When the user clicks this button, I want to set the pop-up to true. So I'd come here and say onClick set pop-up to true. So whenever I click this button, the pop-up would be set to true. And this pop-up would help us determine whether to show the pop-up or not. And by pop-up, I mean our model. So when the user clicks this, we show the model. When the user closes the model, we hide the model. That's by setting the pop-up to false. An example is if I come over here and say when the pop-up is true, so I could say if pop-up is equal to true, then I want you to show a paragraph that says you are awesome. So since right now I already clicked the model, so it would always say you are awesome. But if I reload it, we see that we don't see a that statement. That's because the model, the pop-up is set to false. So when I click, I see this. So that's what we want to do. So next in our agenda is to style out the model. So I'll come over here. And by the way, I don't have to say if pop is equal to true. All I have to check is if pop-up, just to check that it's not a false value. So if pop-up, then show you are awesome. That will still have the same effect on our text display. But this is not the reason why we're here. We want to create our model. So I would say if pop-up, then display my model component. That's with model. And to be able to use this, I would have to come here and then create the model. So I'd create a file and name it model.jsx, and then to close that and create more space. Then in the model.js file, I'll then use RFCE. That's to create the boiler React file. So in the app.js, I would import this file. That's with import model. So it's already being suggested here. I would import model from the model file. So if we check here and click the button, we have this statement model. Or if I come here and say you are awesome, and we click our button, that is set our pop-up to true, we'll see this you are awesome. That's great. So next, we'd like to design our model. So to start out our model, we would like our model to cover the entire viewport so that the user knows that he has to work on this first. So we'll give it to cover the entire viewport and give that a background color that is not too opaque, that's with a reduced opacity. Then on top of that, I would place a container or a box, maybe give it a background color of white, which would contain our information that should be in the model. So I'd come over here, give this a class name of, maybe give it a width of screen and height of screen. That's to cover the entire viewport. Then I would give it a background color of, let's go with black. But after that, reduce its opacity. That's take down the opacity maybe to a 30 for the beginning. So for now, if I reload this and click this, we see that it's the same size as our viewport, but we want this to cover the entire viewport that we see here. So let it be on top of this. So to do that, we'll come to our classes and give it a position of fixed. The reason why we give it a position of fixed is to position it relative to the viewport. So I'll give it a position of fixed and give it a position top of 0 and then right of 0, so that it covers the viewport as we wanted it. So right now, when the pop-up is equal to true, we have this here. But on top of this, we'd like to stack our box containing either the information. So with this, you can create a confirm model. That's with the confirm box. You can create maybe a fill out form or any type of model that you would like to create. So for instance, let's remove this. I would create another div. This is our div to contain the information, which is you are awesome. That's with a background color of white. So we get to see this you are awesome. But we want this to be in the center of this right here. And to position it in the center, I'll give this a display of flex and then justify content to the center, align the items to the center. So if we check here, we have it in the center here. So right now the pop-up is set to false. If I click the button, set it to true, and we get to see our information over here. You are awesome. So let's design this out. So I'll still come back here, give it a padding with P of 10, and then make it rounded. That's rounded medium, that's with MD, and then give it a shadow, still medium. Okay, this is great for our design. So let's fill out the text. So we won't need this anymore. Just create an H1, and this H1 would have, for me to be a dummy text, I'll just say delete user. Imagine this is a confirm model that confirms whether you want to delete a particular user. And then give it a class of font bold. Then change the text to black. Oh wait, it's still gray. Oh, this is not its color, this is the opacity. So I would like this opacity to only be applied to our background and not to our text. So I would say bg opacity 30. Okay, so we have our text back to black, and I don't have to specify this here. That's great. So that's okay for our heading. So I would like it to be bold, then centered, that's with text center. Then I would make it a little bit larger, that's with text large. Then give it a margin vertically of 5. That's it. That's okay for our heading. Then I would pass in a little information, that's with our paragraph over here. So are you sure you want to delete this user, or you want to delete to be specific this user, that's Charles Casassia. So are you sure you want to delete Charles Casassia? So we get that over here. Then I'll create another paragraph. This is to provide the warning. So it would say maybe by deleting this account, you won't be able to access the system. So something like that. So this is just dummy data. You can change it to say anything you would like. So I'd have this. Are you sure you want to delete Charles Casassia? By deleting this account, you won't be able to access the system. So I would like to have an icon here that's with the heading of warning. So I would say span, and inside here I would say warning. And I would bring out my icon, so I didn't need to import the icon this side. We'll just delete this, then I would import it from this side. That's with import IO warning. That's from React icons, and then IO5. That's it. So I would use it here. That's the IO warning icon, and that's that. Okay, so we have our warning. Let's style it a little bit. So to style it, I will come in to the paragraph, give it a class name. So to style it, I'll give it a background color. For let me try out yellow of 500, and that's it. But I have a custom color in mind. So to use custom colors with Tailwind, you put them in the square brackets and then define your color. Then I'll give it a padding of 2. Give it a border on the left side of thickness 2. Then change the border color. Then give it a border color. Next, I'll change the color of my text. And give it a display of flex column. Make the text smaller, that's with text SM, and then give it a vertical margin of 1. Okay, that's it for our styles. So next, I would like to have this on the same line. So I would move into our span here, give it a class name, change the text color, make the font bold, give it a display of flex, center the items, and then give it a gap of 1. Okay, that's great. Okay, so that's it for the warning. Now I would like to have a section of the buttons or actions a user can take. So I would move back to the code, and under the paragraph here, I would create a div, and in this div, I would have a button, maybe for the negative, no cancel, and then I would have another button for the affirmative, that's maybe delete. Okay, that's it. So I would style out this, give it a class, a display of flex, justify the content to space between, and then give it a margin top of 5. Then I would move to our first button, that's the cancel button, give it a class name, and make it outline. Make the outline 1, and then the outline color 20. So this right here, because I'll need to give it a background color too. Give the background color the same as its outline, and then make the text white. Then give it a padding Y of 2, and then a horizontal padding of 4. Let's check that out. Okay, I would again like to give it a hover effect. So move back to VS Code. Okay, so let's work on the hover state. So I'll come back to my class name, hover. On hover, I'll change the background back to transparent, and then the text white. Sorry, this is on hover. And the text should move back to black. Okay. So that's it. So let's work on the delete button. So I'll come to my delete button, give it a class name. So I'll give it the same class names as the cancel button. Put it here, and I'll just interchange the colors. So I'll change the color to be outline the same, and this to happen when someone on hover, then hover. It kind of gets the opposite design here. That's it. Maybe change the text over here. Yes, delete. Okay. So next, I would like to work on the click event. So I'll move back to VS Code, and on click, I would like to set the model to false. So I'll move back to our app.js and Popup. So I'll set the Popup So I'll set the Popup to false. But I'll move back here and pass it as a prop. So set Popup to set Popup. Okay. So when you cancel, move back, open model, no cancel. And then on delete, so on click delete, like maybe to console.log. So here you can put the code for deleting the user. So that's it. That's how to create a very simple model using React and Tailwind CSS. So I hope if you have not been using Tailwind, you try to check it out. And if you liked the video, thank you. And I hope to see you in the next video.